everyone, welcome back. In this last lesson, we're going to talk about the wind correction side of the E6B. And before we start getting into how we use it, I'd like to start by talking about a few of the different features on the back side here. So you can see the design is a little bit different here. For starters, the instructions on how to use this side are up at the very, very top. Underneath that, you'll see the true index. This is where you're going to set your headings, your true courses, your headings, your wind, all that stuff's going to be set right there. Underneath that, you'll see a big clear circle, which you can write on. That is where you're going to plot the wind speed, and you're going to use those arcs, which are known as speed arcs, to set the wind speed up from that little hole in the center, which is called the grommet. Under the grommet, it's going to tell you what the ground speed of your airplane is as soon as you're done setting up the whole transparent area there. You can see some relatively vertical lines that run up and down through the transparent area there, and those are wind correction angles. It tells you what your correction from true course should be to true heading based on the winds that you get from the winds aloft. So now that we've talked about that, let's jump into how to use the wind correction side. So just like in the previous videos in this course, we have some sample written questions that we're going to work our way through to demonstrate how to use this. And the first question is, what is the true heading and ground speed of an aircraft given the following? We have a true course of 270 degrees, the wind is 230 degrees at 25 knots, and the true airspeed is 130. Now we can jump over to the E6B, but before we do anything, we want to make sure that the grommet is centered on one of those numbers on the vertical columns there. I chose to center mine on the 170, but it doesn't matter where you set it because you're only going to use this as a reference for when you're plotting your wind. Once you've chosen a number to center the grommet on, we're going to take our first step, which is to set the wind direction under the true index. So on the inner rotatable circle, find our wind direction, which is 230 degrees, and rotate that all the way up until it's directly underneath the true index. The second step is to draw the wind. So we're going to make a wind velocity marking, and that's going to be right on top of, it's always going to be on top of the grommet. So the wind velocity we were given is 25 knots. We're going to count up 25 from the grommet, which is going to put, for me, it's going to be a marking at the 195 line. You can draw a line or you can make a dot. It doesn't matter. Once you've made your wind velocity mark, we can twist the rotatable circle until the true course is underneath the true index. We had a true course of 270 degrees, so we're going to rotate the inner circle until 270 degrees is at the top underneath the true index. Now that we've done this, we can kind of get a top-down view of where the wind is coming from, reference to the wind velocity mark that we've made. If the wind velocity mark is above the grommet, then you're going to have a headwind. If it's underneath the grommet, then you have a tailwind. Now, how far left or right it is going to show you how much of a crosswind it actually is. The next step is to slide the wind velocity mark to our true airspeed. Now, we were given a true airspeed of 130 knots, so slide that wind velocity mark down until it intersects the 130 line. Now that we've done that, we've effectively finished the problem, and the other two steps are just there to tell us how to read the answer. We can tell that step 5 says that the ground speed reads under the center, so if you look under the grommet, you should get a ground speed in the realm of 110, and the wind correction angle, you're going to notice that the wind velocity mark is a little bit off to the left, so you should subtract anything that's on the left from your actual true course. So we know with a ground speed of 110 and all those conditions that we have a true heading of 263 degrees. In this next example, we're going to be looking at a slight variation on a more complicated written test question where you'll be given figures and asked to plot the true course between two airports, and then you'll have to figure out what the true heading, wind correction speed, and ground speed is. So here's our question. It says, what is the true heading and ground speed between airport A and airport B? Now, I'm going to assume that we've already taken and measured and plotted the course between those two, and we got a true course of 090 when we did that. Now, the wind is going to be given to you, so we have a wind of 245 true at 30 knots, and our true airspeed will also be a given. It's 125 knots. So the way we work through this problem is exactly the same as what we did for the other problem. We're going to follow the steps that are listed on the E6B there. So first, we're going to set our wind direction of 245 degrees under the true index. Once we've got that set up, we're going to go to the little grommet, make sure that it's centered on something. I put mine back at 160, and we're going to mark the wind velocity up from that center point. We're going to count up 30 knots this time. So you should be making a little mark sitting at 190. After that, we're going to rotate the rotatable inner scale until our true course, which we would have figured out from our plotting, is at the top. So we're going to set 090, which is our true course, at the top underneath the true index. And that's going to give us a visual picture of what the wind is doing, whether it's a headwind, a tailwind, or a crosswind. Now that we've set that, we're going to take that little wind velocity mark that we made, and we are going to slide it until it's on top of the true airspeed of our airplane, which is a 125 knot true airspeed. And that's all we need to do. The answer is literally right in front of us. Next, we should look at the ground speed, which we can read underneath the grommet. And we can see that's 152 knots. That's our ground speed right there. The wind correction angle is 6 degrees, and when we add the wind correction angle, because it's a right correction, we get a true heading of 096. Now, in some cases, this question could lead into how long is it going to take you to get there now that you know what your ground speed is? It'll give you a distance, and then it's going to have you figure out a whole slew of other problems. But that is 100% of how you use the wind correction side of the E6B. Understanding how to use both sides of the E6B is an incredibly important skill because you're going to be demonstrating this for your private pilot check ride, and if you're going further than just being a private pilot, you're going to be demonstrating it all the way up through the ATP level. Yes, you use this on your ATP written. So get your practice in with this quiz that's coming up here, and test your mastery of the E6B. Thanks for watching the course, guys.